Hi everyone! Okay, today we'll learn how to create, read, update and delete data using Node.js and PostgreSQL. We'll use Docker to set up the database and pgadmin to view the data. So let me use an analogy here. Imagine PostgreSQL being your library, where each table in the database is like a bookshelf with books, our data. Node.js is the librarian who manages the library. And Express is the service desk where people come to request and modify books. By the end of this lesson, you'll know how to handle all these tasks. So let's start here. I've opened up a new project, week 14, and I'm going to create a file here in the terminal. I'm going to say touch docker compose .yaml, and in here I'm going to paste this data here. And what I've done here is I've created a Postgres user called athlete, a Postgres password, a database called sports_data, and the rest is the same as we've had before. Okay, so let me explain this to you a little bit more. So it's called docker-compose.yaml, and this here is like a recipe. It tells Docker what kind of tools, because we're going to use Docker, what kind of tools we need and how to build them. We'll be using PostgreSQL as a database and pgadmin as a tool to peek into the database. Now let me explain to you what's inside of this file here. So Postgres here, this creates the Postgres database. Think of it as the cabinet in the library. Then we have the Postgres user, and that is sort of the username to access the database. We have Postgres_password, the password to unlock it, and Postgres_db, and this is the name of the database or the section in the database where we store the information. Then we have pgadmin, and this is like a keyhole, and it allows us to look into the filing cabinet through like the web browser. Now let's run this recipe using the command docker-compose up, and this will build the filing cabinet and the keyhole. So let's do that. So I'm going to make sure that Docker is running. There we go. And I'm waiting. Okay. So it's all running. And then you write docker compose up. Okay, brilliant. Now let's go into localhost 8080. And I'm going to pull it over there. Okay. And in here we will type admin@example.com as we see here, and admin as the password. And we log in. Okay. Now let's have a look. Let's add a new server. Let's call this, call it locals Postgres. And connection. And here we type in Postgres, and then we have the username here, which is athlete. No. athlete, and the password is password. Save. Okay. There we go. So then we have this setup. Now that we have Postgres installed, let's initialize our project and install our dependencies. So let's initialize the project. We can say npm init -y. There. And we can now npm install. And I want to install Express. I want to install .env to protect our environment variables. And I want to install PG as well. PG will help us to make the connection to the database. So let's check. .env, Express, and PG. Great. Okay. Let's move on and create our file. So we can say touch index.js, and we can open up our file here. And what we do is we are first going to import Express from Express. We're going to import PG from PG. We're going to import .env from .env. There. Now, because we're not using Vite, the way we use the .env files is slightly different. It's mainly the syntax, and we also need to make sure that we can use the config file for .env, so we do that, and we can say const app equals express there, and we also need to say const pool equals PG, and then we write const pool equals new pool, and look at the syntax there with the capitalization. And what we do here is we will create a new object in there with the user, and that is going to be process.env.db underscore user, and it is going to be quite repetitive, so I'm going to copy, I think, all of this here. I will say host, and we want a connection to the database, so we need to do database. We need a password, of course, so we say password, and we need the port, so we're going to say port there. So this is going to be used to make a connection to our database. Then we do app.listen there with a request and a response. We want it to be on port. No, actually, we want to have that one there. And nope. What am I doing? I did it right already. So, and here then we can say console.log server is running on port 3000. There, and I want one app.get and that's where I want this one. And then I want the function with the request and response. And basically what I want to say here is I just want to send a message here, and the message is going to say, welcome to this Node.js and PostgreSQL lesson. There. So we have this set up now. Let's create the .env file. So touch.env, and I created it here. And what we type here, and again, this is a little bit different when we use the Vite, but we do db user equals, because that's what we use here, db user, db host. So maybe I can just copy and paste these over. So there, host. I think it's going to be faster to type it. Database, password, and port. And if I close this and I open up my YAML file and go back in here, then I can see user is, this is my Postgres, so that's what I need to connect to. So athlete, the host is actually going to be localhost. The database is going to be sports_data. Password is password. And the port is 5432. There. Okay. So remember, if we just to remind you of Vite, then in Vite we had to write Vite in front of it. We don't have to do that right here. So there is a difference. And in this file here, instead of process, we had to write import.meta instead. So slightly different. Now let's see if everything works. We can say node index.js. No, because I have to change this file here. I have to say type, remember that, and module. There. Now clear and do it again, and you can see it's running. Wonderful. Let's go to the next step. So far we have been setting up PostgreSQL and pgadmin with Docker. After that we started the services, then we've set up Node.js and Express. We've installed the dependencies or the tools, Express, pg.env. We've created the .env file. We've built the server, and right now what we need to do is we're going to write some queries in Node.js, and we do that by first creating the table. So let's have a look here. I open this up again, and here we go. And let's go to the query tool, and we're going to say create table, and we want to call this athletes. And we have an ID, which is going to be a serial primary key, a name, which is going to be a varchar, and let's make it just 50, not too long. We want, because it's athletes, we want maybe a sport. We'll say 50 characters. And an age, probably, an int. And that's it. I think that's all I want for now. name, sport, and age. So let's run this. Okay, so then we can say select all from athletes. So we have the ID, name, sports, and age. Now let's go back to our index.js file here, and instead of this one here, okay, actually I'm going to take it out. We're going to write, we do a try catch, and then in here we can say if there's an error, we can give us the status, and we're going to give it a 500 status, and we also want to send the error message there. And then let's put the logic in here. So we can say we want the result, and we'll store it as a variable, and the result is going to be pool.query, and in here now we're going to say select everything from athletes. And remember, that's just what I did here. Select everything from athletes. I'm going to put it in there right now. And then I want to say with response.json, I want the results.rows. Okay, now this may take a while, so remember, in front of the function we're going to say async, and then what we want is we want to say await the results. There we go. Now let's see what happens. And what we can do here is we look at the console here and open up a new tab, and we can say localhost, and we're going to do 3000, and it says password authentication field for user athlete. So let's have a look at this little error here. So let's have a look at the password then. I missed an S. So let's save this. And if you also want to look at it, you could also write down this here, console.log process.env password, and you can see what the password is. So if it wouldn't come through, you would know there's another issue. So we'll do it again. There. And we refresh this. And we're going to get an empty array back because we have no data in there just yet. But everything looks good so far. So let's put some data in there so we can get something back. So close this, and in here, what we can do now, because we're getting no data back, of course there are no rows of data, is we can add some data. So remember, app.post is what we use to enter some data. And we can say, if we go forward to athletes, then we can, there, then we can say request and response, and we can take the, because we have the, in the table we have the name, we have the sport and the age, remember? So we're going to get that back from the request.body there. And then we're going to write the logic. So we can say try catch, and I'm going to say error, and then I'm going to say the same thing, and let's enter some logic here. So we're going to say, I'm going to store the result again, just like we did before, and pool.query. Look how it's the same as before. And in here, we're going to write our our query. So we're going to say insert into athletes, and remember this is the same again. We want name, sport, and age. And then we want the values, and in here I'm going to say something different here. I'm going to say $1, $2, and $3. And this corresponds to 1, 2, and 3, and we want this to be returning everything. And now we repeat this. So we say name, sport, and age. There. And then we want the response.json, and then we want the result.rows, and we want the first row back in this case. There. So what's happening is here is, let's say this comes from the front, and here where we get the name, the sport, and the age, we want to insert the name, the sport, and age then into our database, and we're going to use these 3 values that we're going to get from name, sport, and age into our database. So the returning start here asks the database to give back the full row that was just added. Okay. So let's open up Insomnia there, and we're going to create a new collection here, and let's call these athletes. There we go. And what we want to do is a new HTTP request. We want this request to be called create athlete, and it's going to be a post, and then we're going to do HTTP localhost, remember it's 3000, and we set here athletes, so we do athletes there. We go to the body tab, we choose JSON because we're working with JSON, and let's write name, remember here, name, and I'll write my name. Then we have sport, I'll say running, and we have age, and that is 45. So click on send, connect the server, and that is because I've stopped the server before. So let me run it. Let's do it again, and it cannot do it because it says cannot destructure property name of request body as it is undefined. And the reason for this is actually because I forgot something. Okay, and it's a JSON problem, and the thing is that Express.js does not parse JSON request bodies by default. So that's why we have to implement what we've always added, and that is the middleware that parses incoming JSON payloads. And it's simple. So just before this here, all we have to do is write down app.use express.json. There. Okay, let's Let's try again. And let's hope it works now. Send. Oh, now it says cannot read properties of undefined, reading 0. So there's another problem. Let's have a look. And it gives us an error too, see? 500 internal server error. So what could that be here? So this reading here, cannot read properties of undefined, is that it cannot read this one here. Okay. And what you can see is I have put async await here, but I forgot to do that here. So let's add async and await here as well. Save. I'm just going to restart this here, and we'll just do it once more. And now everything is correct. Phew! So you see how important the syntax is. Okay, so now we have a 200 OK, and we got everything back here as we wanted. Great. So let's have a look if this also posted it in Postgres. So let's open up Postgres here, and let's select everything from tables. Continue. And oh, we posted it twice by accident now. Okay, so we can say here, we can say delete from athletes where ID equals 2. Let's run this. Now select everything from athletes and have a look. Great. Okay, so now it's just the entrance that I just had. Okay, let's also check if this one here works, the get. So in Insomnia, I can say here, and then what we want to do is we want to get all the athletes. So let's rename this one. I can call this fetch all athletes, which is just now just one, and HTTP local host 3000 get, and we say send. What did I do wrong here? I wrote 300 send, and you can see there's just me. So if I do another one here, I can say here post body, and let's say Hannah, let's say she likes swimming, and Hannah is also 45. I say okay, and then I fetch all, and I say okay. Then I've got one, yeah, because I've deleted number 2. Okay, so 1 and 3, and I can go keep going. So I've got a get, I've got a post here. Now we can also do a put, app.put, and what we'll do here is we're going to say athletes, and then we want to choose the ID of the athlete, and we're going to say request and response there. And what we want to do is we want to update. No, that's too fast, sorry. We first need to get the ID from the request.params. We also want this here, of course, from the requested body, and then we can do our try catch error, and we can copy this, stick that in there, and now we can do const result, equals pool dot query, and in here now we can say update athletes, and you might want to set the name equals $1, so that name equals $1, sport equals, as you can guess, $2, and age equals $3, where ID equals $4, returning everything, comma, and then remember this is important too. So now we have in the same order name, sport, age, and ID there. We need to make sure this is asynchronous. Async. Oh wait. Now, if the result dot rows dot length is 0, so if there are no rows, then we can return response.status a 404, and we can send a message saying athlete not found, length there. Okay, but if there is a result, yeah, otherwise we can say response.json result dot rows 0. So if I explain it here, this part here gets the ID of the athlete to update. This here gets the new details from the request.body. Yeah. This here replace the placeholders with the new values and the ID. Yeah. Now, if we have no results here, then we can say we have no athlete with that ID, and otherwise we send back the updated athlete. So let's save this and let's try it out. So we can use this part here. Let's create a new one there, and we can call this update athlete. This is going to be a put requests HTTP localhost 3000, and let's pick number 1. I need to write down, of course, what it says here. Athletes. One. And JSON. And what we now want to do is we want to say name, and it said Michiel, so it's going to be awesome Michiel. Sport is going to be swimming, and the age is 46. Okay. So send. I cannot put, so we have to say it was not found. Let's have a look what it was. Did I make a mistake? So I'm going to copy this, fetch, send. Yeah, there was a number 1, name, sport, and age. Name, sport, and age. What have I done wrong? And I got the right data back now. All I had to do was restart my server and everything was cool. So now if I fetch all, then I can see here, awesome Michiel, swimming, and age 46. Good. So now we have a get, a post, a put. Let's add a delete. So app.delete. And we want to do the same here as on this one here. So actually I'm just going to copy this. And there, only this is not a put, it is going to be a delete. This is going to be asynchronous, so we're going to add that too. We have this one in there as well, and we're going to do a try catch, and with the catch we can copy this as well, all the same. And now let's add the logic in here. So again, we're going to do const result equals, and we have to do await pool.query, and what we do is delete from athletes where ID equals $1, returning everything. Now, again, returning everything, comma, and all we need to do is, instead of what we have here, all these, all we need is the ID. Again here, what we did here, I can copy this here. We say if result at length is 0, then we can say athlete is not found. Otherwise, then we can send a message. Send, and we say athlete deleted successfully. There. So let's try this out. Restart, run it again. There we go. Open up Insomnia, create a new one here, and it's going to be a delete. rename, delete, athlete by ID. We can do this one as well. Rename by ID. So here we say HTTP local host 3000, and we want number one. Sorry, again, athletes and number one. Send. And you can say athlete deleted successfully, and now when I fetch them, I can see I only have one left, Hannah. So this is how you connect your Postgres database to Node.js. So let's recap what we did. We just built a full CRUD application. We added new data to the database. We fetched all the data of specific data by ID. We modified existing data, and we removed data from the database, all from Node.js. Remember, PostgreSQL is the library, Node.js sort of is the librarian, and Express is the service desk where people come to ask for changes. Okay, there was a long lesson today. Hope you enjoyed it. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.